official bolster or a few pillows from your bed or sofa, preferably on the longer side, or if you had square that you could put them back to back. We're going to do kind of a yin style blended restorative type class, and that's probably the only prop you need. Maybe a block if you have one handy, but it's not necessary. And while you get your props, just check if you happen to come off mute to say hello, thank you, but just make sure you are muted now, just in case, you know, we all have those occasional disturbances. And so I'll give you guys a minute to grab the props, those of you that left, and then we'll get started. So tonight's class, by the way, too, will just be a little bit shorter, probably about a 30-minute practice and a full 10-minute Shavasana. And that way it'll kind of keep one of the classes on the shorter side, more restorative and good kind of pre-bedtime ritual, even if you don't get to go to bed for a while. So, okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So you've got a bolster nearby. We are gonna start in seated. So if you need to use that bolster to sit on, sometimes for a change up, if I get tired of crisscross applesauce, I do kind of a variation of hero pose and just knees outside the bolster, sitting on the bolster, but of course that requires some fairly good knee flexion. So if that's problematic for you, you can certainly do what does work. Remember, you can review, by the way, the yoga poses in the, I put a few of the basic ones and they're in your modules and also on the home page that are great to study, that give you ways to modify poses, that in case I don't mention all of them in a class time. Okay. So finding an aligned spine, and then softening your gaze, maybe even closing your eyes. Your hands could be at your lap or on your knees. You could have all open palms if you want your practice to be a little bit more engaged with the environment around you, or if you feel like you need a little bit more personal inner class, you can just bring your index finger and thumbs touching. And just begin to observe activity that's currently occupying your body and your mind in the form of sensations or thoughts. And gradually allow yourself to not stop those things, but just to detach from them. Start to bring your awareness to your breath. Just focusing on your breath alone is difficult. Sometimes it can be helpful to just kind of have a mantra of inhalation and exhalation, so that when you're inhaling, you're just saying, I am breathing in. I mean, mentally saying that. And as you exhale, you're mentally saying, I am breathing out. And just begin to become an observer of your practice, recognizing the shifts that may occur in your inner landscape as we move through this practice. If you'd like to have an intention or a mantra for today's class, you could pull up that in your mind, and you could just keep it simple. It might be, I am calm. And then to seal that intention, if you'd like to, you can bring palms together at heart center and gently draw your chin in towards your throat. And then lifting your head and opening your eyes, relaxing your hands down. We'll move through just a couple of shoulder warm-ups here in sitting position. So hands back to heart center. And as you take a deep breath in, you can interlace the fingers And as you exhale, press the palms out, round the back and drop the chin down. On your next breath in, reach up overhead with the arms, pinkies reaching behind you. And as you exhale, release the hands all the way around behind your back and interlace the fingers there. Take an inhale, elbows are straight if possible, arms are behind you, lifting away from your body. And as you exhale, hands come back around and into heart center. We'll do that one more time, inhaling here. Exhale, cross the other finger in front and press the palms out. Spread across the upper back. Inhale, elbows stay straight, arms overhead, press the palms to the sky. Exhale, hands all the way around behind you. Again, opposite finger on top. As you straighten the elbows, lift your heart, maybe lift your gaze. This time, stay here for another breath, or you can fold forward, let the arms come overhead. If you're folded forward, inhale, come back up. And exhale, hands back again, around to heart center. Hands can just release down to your lap, and just release your right ear towards your right shoulder. Keep the shoulders down and back. Again, feel free to close your eyes and just bring your attention to the space along the left side of your neck. Imagine the warmth of your exhalations dissolving tightness. And then your ear is going to stay towards your shoulder, but draw your chin in close to your throat, close to your chest, and then rotate your head as if you're looking down to outside your right thigh. Should shift the stretch a little bit more to the back left side of your neck. And then release your entire head forward and back up to neutral. Same thing, other side. So left ear towards the left shoulder. Let those shoulders become heavy. Again, just letting the warmth of your breath dissolve tension and tightness. And then draw the chin in towards you and rotate your head so you're looking more towards the outside of your left thigh, keeping that right shoulder down and back. Still breathing, full deep breaths. And then release the head forward once more, pause there. And head back up to neutral. We're going to use our bolster now to, you can look at me first if you want to. We're going to come into kind of a supported Shavasana position. You want to arrange your pillows or bolsters so that they are right up against your very lowest part of your back, your sacrum, that upside down triangle at the base of your spine. And so that when you lay back on it, your head is supported as well. But optimally, your shoulders are hanging off each side of it and your arms come down by your side, palms to the sky. And so like I said, this can be kind of Shavasana position, so legs a comfortable distance apart. If you feel any pain in your low back, feel free to bend the knees instead and bring the knees to each other. And adjust as needed so that, again, you may start to feel a little bit of a stretch across the upper chest. You may feel a little bit of stretch across the front of your torso, depending on how much arch you have in your spine. And if you don't have bolsters, you can simply do regular Shavasana position on your mat. So I may come out of the poses so you can hear me better, but you can remain in them until I let you know to transition. As you rest there, you're again just scanning your body for ways in which you can surrender Just letting the body, the intelligence inside, do what it needs to do. You may feel the backs, the shoulders sink deeper towards your mat. Your glutes surrender and relax. Allow the muscles of your face to surrender and the back of your head to feel securely supported. So as we hold this pose for a couple of minutes, you may find that your mind has a tendency to just wander outside of your mat beyond this pose. So when you notice that, you just bring it back and let it enjoy traveling through your body, noticing, softening into this pose. You can continue with that mantra using your breath, deep inhales. I am breathing in. And on your exhales, I am breathing out. If there are areas of discomfort, notice them. And decipher, is it that you need to adjust or you need to surrender and maybe release the grip of any muscles around that region? If you are in this supported shavasana, almost like a Matsyendrasana, fish pose position, it helps to bring a little bit more awareness and energy to the area of your heart, your fourth chakra. So observe what energy, what feelings, what emotions rest there this evening. And be open to observation without judgment or expectation. Begin transitioning out of this pose, getting ready for our next pose. To do that, you can just begin by bending your knees, walking the feet in a little ways. And roll to either side just to come off the mat a little bit. Off of your bolster a little bit. And then as you get off of the bolster, you can slowly make your way up to a seated position. And then I want to have your bolster nearby. I have a cat on mine. And we're going to move into a variation of Baddha Konasana. And in this variation, I'm going to have you bend your knees with your feet in front of you, quite a distance away, probably almost about 2 hand lengths away, so that as you open your knees to the side, you'll have more of a diamond shape. Knees are not expected to come to the ground in this pose, but if it feels uncomfortable to have them unsupported, then you may find that you do need to grab a couple extra pillows. Otherwise, if you're comfortable just letting them hang in space, that's great, that's fine. Your bolster is going to come to rest on top of your feet long ways, or your pillows. You may find that you end up moving it out of the way, but we'll start with it there. And with this particular variation of Baddha Konasana, we're going to allow our spine to round. We're going to allow for some flexion there. So do start up on your sit bones, though. You don't want to be behind your sit bones to begin with. So up on your sit bones. And then you can start to round and bring your hands either beside the bolster or under the bolster. Maybe I like to hold around my feet, rounding the neck so that just beyond your hairline, kind of more on top of your head, rests on your bolster. And if it doesn't make it to the bolster, it's safe to let it linger in space, but you could also use your hands or fists to support it. You're going to kind of let the effect of gravity and this position create a nice stretch and openness through the back body. So if you need to look at me, feel free. That's where I start, is resting my forehead on the bolster. But you could experiment if you feel like you want to go a little deeper, move the bolster away. And I then sometimes take my hands under my lower legs and to the outsides of my tops of my feet and bring my head to the space of my feet. And you may be somewhere in between, that's perfectly fine. This evening's class is about feeling supported rather than necessarily going to your full range. And this pose is definitely one where the rhythm of your breath and the depth of your breath can help you move a little bit more deeply into the pose, deeper into stretch, wherever you feel it. But never feel that you have to stay in the pose as long as I'm offering. You can certainly come out of it and just rest in a seated position. You may find that as you just become that observer in this pose, that your awareness naturally starts to move into the area of your second chakra. Don't worry if you don't know what that is. Or the energy center, the area that helps with creativity, fluidity. You may notice sensations moving through the inner thighs. Observe how those sensations may change. Check that your face is still relaxed and your breath is still smooth. Continuing here for about 3 to 5 more full breaths. On your next inhalation, you can press your hands into the bolster, the floor, and start to press yourself back up to seated position. Sorry. Once you are there, we're going to move into the more traditional version of Baddha Konasana. So bring your knees together. You may need the bolster, just have it in reach. Heels are going to walk in super close. And then open the knees out to the sides, soles of the feet together. Again, support the knees if you need to, either with your hands or blocks. But coming onto your sit bones, find that aligned spine, because this one is going to initially focus more on maintaining that aligned spine, so you may feel more stretch in the inner thighs and the groin area. You could try placing your thumbs on the inside of your feet, like on the soles of your feet, fingers on the outside, and even kind of opening your feet like you're reading a book, but you don't have to do that part of the pose. I like to inhale, lengthen a little bit more through the spine. And as I exhale, I'm going to just hinge at my hip creases and try to maintain that aligned spine, noticing before it rounds that it's about to, and pause there. I'll make sure that I'm bringing the front of my shoulders away from the earth and away from my ears. I'm just going to linger there for a couple of breaths so my body can adjust to this new position. Next, inhale, maybe even back out of it just an inch or so to lengthen and align once more. And as you exhale, maybe you go a little deeper, maybe you don't. And this is where you could either take your elbows to the ground and support your forehead with the palms of your hands, or some of you may like to again take that bolster in front, forearms on the floor. Continue to bring the chest towards the bolster as far as it will go comfortably with that aligned spine. And then I'm going to allow you to round the neck a little bit so your forehead can either rest on the bolster or your fists. If you're comfortable with it in space, that is also okay. Notice how in this variation of the pose, your awareness and what you're noticing is different. So we're going to stay here for another minute, minute and a half, and make adjustments as you need to stay in that place of I'm aware of things happening, but I'm not in pain. Check in with the rhythm of your breath and use it as a tool to keep you engaged in the pose with the present moment. And slowly bring yourself back up. You can press your hands into the bolster or floor and walk the hands in, returning to that aligned spine as you come back to a neutral position. Gonna bring the knees back together. Take the legs out in front. You may notice a little sensation. We're gonna do one more seated position pose before coming onto our stomach. So again, bolster nearby. This time we're going to take the legs into a V. So not so wide that you may normally go because we're going to stay here for a couple of minutes, but wide enough to feel like you're in a V. And as you kind of get the details of that pose down, again, you want to maybe lift up and find those sit bones, almost like you're trying to do an anterior pelvic tilt with your pelvis, but really you're just trying to get on the sit bones. Powerful core muscles to get that alignment through your spine. Legs are strong, kneecaps and toes toward the sky and maybe even slightly back. So hands can go in front. Maybe some of you even want them behind just to keep that aligned spine as you just take a few breaths initially to get used to this starting position. If that's where you need to be, that's fine, but I do want you to be a little bit more relaxed to the torso so you can take your hands to the legs. If you want to fold forward in this pose, that's our next opportunity. So I'm taking the bolster in front of me again. I know this is a little more cumbersome if you're having to grab a bunch of pillows, so thanks for playing along. And you can kind of walk out maybe initially forearms on the bolster or pillows so that I still have that aligned spine. I'm making sure my legs are still part of the pose and engaged. And as my body adjusts, it'll kind of give me a signal. Yeah, this is where I need to stay. Or maybe it goes a little deeper and the hands might come beside the bolster. And if you find that part of your torso is starting to make contact with the bolster and you want more support for your head, you could kind of do what we did before. So you could either like stack the fists to rest your forehead on your fists. You could come forward. And again, because we're doing a little slightly different style of this pose, you could round the neck just a little bit and let the back of your neck curve into flexion. And when you find that place that is best for you, feel free to close your eyes and once more just travel along your inner landscape. As you soften into the pose, just discover what's being offered. Sometimes the legs are like, yeah, I'm starting to enjoy this place of relaxation. And you may have noticed that your kneecaps or toes started to roll in. So just remind them to stay up to the sky. Be here for about 3 to 5 more breaths. On your next exhalation, you can once more start using your hands to press yourself back up to your starting position with an aligned spine. And I'm going to move my bolster on the other side of my mat so you can see me, but have it nearby. We're just going to transition onto our stomach to move into a supported Sphinx pose. It's going to feel good to let your hips now move into at least neutral and maybe a little bit of extension. I've been sitting for a while, so take a minute to just kind of lengthen them along your mat, about hip width apart, tops of the feet down, outer ankles lifting. And we'll start having your bolster so that if you want to use a bolster, you don't have to. You're going to draw it in its long ways so that you can kind of lift up a little bit and have the end of your pillow or bolsters just at the very top of your belly button. So just below the ribs near the belly button. If that, and take a moment because it does take a minute sometimes to settle into that, letting the pelvis settle. And after a few breaths, you may decide that's too high for you and you can just slide it forward. So elbows are under the shoulders, palms are down into the mat. Maybe you want to use the fingertips to just draw your chest up and forward a little bit. Gaze can be straight ahead. Maybe not too much up at all in this version today. And see if your pelvis can surrender without any pinching in your low back. So even though the pose is active, the support of the bolster in the right place for you, which could be closer, like maybe mid ribs, the bottom of your sternum, giving you just enough support so that hopefully your lower belly is getting a little bit of a stretch and your low back is not over contracted or pinching. arms start to get tired or painful, then you can always just fold one on top of the other and rest your forehead down for a couple of breaths. But we're only going to be here for maybe 10 more breaths at the most. So new place for the hips, pelvis. So journey inward and see where your breath wants to go with the pose. These last couple of breaths, if you want to turn your head to the right for one breath, and then to the left for the last breath, and then back to center. To come out of the pose, you can just slide the hands back under the shoulders and press into all 10 digits as you lift up. And we're going to slowly transition into child's pose with the bolster nearby. So I'm going to scoot my knees up, big toes together, and settle back down between my heels, letting the heels splay, but big toes together. I'm going to draw the bolster in closer, forearms to the mat beside the bolster initially. And then you can just round the head, bring the top of the head to the bolster. And if preferred, arms can go either by the side or extended even farther out in front. So we're not here long, just a couple more breaths. I just wanted to give us a nice transition out of Sphinx. And walk the hands back. Press your torso back up off the thighs. Move your bolster out of the way. And you can just shift over to one hip to bring the feet around. So you have room behind you. We're going to come down onto our back in just a moment and finish up there with bridge pose and figure four. For bridge, if you happen to have a block, I didn't bring mine out, great, I'll get one and show you how it is, but you could even use your bolster. We're not going to go in a super high bridge, so you can watch me first. If you only have your bolster and you don't want to have to get another prop, in a minute it's going to go there, but I would probably just come down first. You probably can't see me because the bolster's in the way, but with your heels maybe at the fingertips distance away, hip width apart, palms can be up or down. Draw the belly down and back, and you're just going to roll the hips up off the floor, keeping the knees in line with your hips so they're not splayed out. And then if you can reach it and it's easy to drag it over and under, which it's not really easy to do, you can just place it under your hips. And so you're really in a low bridge, not much inversion at all. If you have a block, you can get a little more height, or you can just do regular bridge. So just depends on how restorative you want it to be. Same beginnings, going to bridge. The block just allows a little bit more of an inversion, a little bit more stretch to the hip flexors. And if you've done this before and you know where you want even more height, you can come on the tippy toes and place the long end of the block at your sacrum. So play around for a moment and decide what you want to use and how high you want to go in this pose. But it should feel good. I'm placing that block right at my sacrum, not on the spine, not on the vertebrae, not on my glutes, but right there. You could experiment with even taking your arms overhead. And then as you settle into the pose, keep your chin away from your chest. Your eyes soft. All four corners of each foot are lightly pressing into the mat. No pain in the knees. If there are, you could walk the foot toes further forward towards the front edge of your mat. Full deep breaths. Notice where your mind is. Bring it back to the rhythm of your breath. As you ride with it through the pose. Last full breath here. And then lift the hips enough to remove your prop. Moving into figure four, just bring your right knee in a bit. Open up the knee and place the ankle on the left thigh, keeping that ankle bent. And then bring the left knee in towards you. Take your right arm, thread it between the two thighs. Find your left arm around the outside so the fingers can interlace behind that left thigh. Shoulders relaxed. And if you want to bring the knee in for a deeper stretch, you can. If you want to circle out the ankle, the left ankle. Spread the toes, bend the toes. Face relaxed. And gently release the left foot to the mat, hands move away. You're going to place the right foot down and just change sides. So left knee bent and in close, ankle is bent into dorsiflexion. Rotate the knee out, ankle on the right thigh, and then start to bring the right knee in. Threading the left arm between the two legs, right arm comes around and they meet at your right hamstring. Shoulders down, head down. With full breaths. Just bringing the right knee into that place of kind of a yummy stretch through your left glute and hip musculature. If you want to move that right ankle around and the toes. Still breathing. Going to keep the right foot in the air, uncross the left leg so both knees are in close to your chest. Arms can open out to the side or make goalpost arms, cactus arms. And to move into a spinal twist, I like to keep the feet off to go into my twist, but you could bring them down first. I'm going to allow both knees to go all the way over to the left as I gaze to the right. Few deep breaths there. As you inhale, bring your head and knees back to center using your core muscles. And then as you exhale, knees go to the right, gaze goes to the left. As you inhale, head and knees come back to center once more. You can use the arms to bring the knees in, squeezing them towards your chest. Forehead towards the knees as you exhale. Release the head down. Bring the feet down. And we'll move into Shavasana, corpse pose. So if you need that bolster under your knees, grab it. Otherwise, the legs will go straight and as wide as your mat. Adjust the lower back and glute position. Spine is long and aligned. Arms a little bit away from the body, elbows straight, palms up. Find that position where your head can be still and comfortable. The bottom of your chin is parallel to the wall in front of you. Back to the shoulders are starting to melt down towards your mat. And you bring your awareness to the area of your feet. And imagine a warm, healing energy massaging the soles of your feet, warming your toes. Feel that calming, warm energy start to make its way up as it massages your calves. And brings health and wellness to your knee joints. As your thighs release their grip from your bones. Your glutes relax. As your lower back softens. You feel that warm, healing energy circulating warmth and health through the organs of digestion and assimilation. And that warm, healing energy moves up the spine, massaging all the muscles that surround it. Coming up over the tops of your shoulders where it squeezes out any remaining tension there. And then trickles down the arms, massaging the muscles along the way. Feel that warm, healing energy linger in the palms of your hands. Allow that warm energy to travel back up the arms, across the chest, and feel it warm your heart energy. Spread a sense of compassion and joy out through the chest, through the lungs. That area restored and balanced as the energy starts to move up the neck and massages those muscles just beneath at the base of your skull. Your throat relaxes. And the healing energy massages your scalp and dissolves lines and signs of tension from your forehead. You feel your jaw relax, your tongue relax. And that calm, healing energy moves into the mind, replacing any remaining anxiety with calmness and clarity. Continue here for a few more moments as you recognize the body's ability to heal, repair, and rest. And slowly start to bring your awareness back to your body by starting to move your fingers and toes. Maybe deepening your breath and even stretching the arms overhead. And bringing the arms back as you bend your knees and walk the feet in a little closer. There, when you're ready, you can roll over to one side. And then use one of your hands to help press you back to a seated position. Finding once more that seated position that allows for an aligned spine. And if you'd like to, bring palms together at heart center. With your thumbs pointing in towards your heart, let it be a reminder to lead with your heart. Moving the palms up, lightly touching the lips with your thumb as a reminder to always speak your truth. Moving the palms up, the thumbs gently touching your forehead as a reminder to follow your intuition and that piece of you that is bigger than what you see in the mirror. And then with hands back at heart. Thank you so much for taking this time to share your evening with me. Light in me surrenders to and honors that light that resides in you. Namaste. Thanks, everyone. Hope you sleep well.